Hi, everyone, and welcome to Behind the Desk with a Human. Before we dive in this episode, I want to make something very clear, and it's a disclaimer that I'm not a mental health professional. What I'm sharing today comes from personal experiences, mine, my friends, families, or stories I've heard through the years. It is not a medical advice, it's not related to any medical research. It is a conversation about real life struggles and questions many of us face. Today, we are talking about a real complicated emotional topic: personality disorders and relationships. How do these conditions affect love, family, and day to day life? And maybe the hardest question of all, what does it mean for the partner who's living with someone who has a serious diagnosis? We often hear a story on social media or read a book about someone who went through an abusive relationship with a partner who had a personality disorder. But we don't usually hear what the other person feels, the one who has the diagnosis. What is their story? What is their reality? There are so many angles to look at here, so many opinions and emotions. And the truth is, there is no absolute right or wrong. Sometimes there is no wrong or wrong, no right or right. At the end of the day, you gotta do what you gotta do. If we look at it from the side or the life of the person with the disorder, for people living with a condition like, for example, borderline personality disorder, or referred to as BPD, bipolar disorder, ADHD, schizophrenia, relationships can feel like a battlefield. Someone with borderline personality disorder may feel terrified of abandonment, and that fear can spell out as anger or holding tight. Sometimes they pull you so close, and when they feel you're so close to them, they scared of that you're gonna abandon them, and they push you away. And this back and forth, pulling and pushing, it's not something that they do it on purpose or they are conscious about it. It's just the fear of losing. Someone with bipolar disorder may feel love deeply, but during a manic episode, they can make reckless choices that shake trust. Adults with ADHD often struggle with they forget things, they forget events, they forget even conversations happened. So sometimes they tune out, which make the other person, the partner, may interpret this as a lack of care. With someone with schizophrenia, symptoms like paranoia or withdrawal can make closeness difficult. To be close to someone, it is hard. It's the fear of hurting themselves or the person they love. What is important is most people don't want to hurt the ones they love. Many feel deep shame or regret afterward. With diagnosis, therapy, and medication, many learn coping tools and find stability. And for sure, treatment gives them a chance to rebuild for both sides, because even the other partner, the other person, when they see the ones they love, they are willing to go through the treatment. They are willing to acknowledge the issue. the partner will stay. The partner was like, I'm gonna fight with you, I'm gonna be there for you. But you cannot help someone who's not willing to help themselves. Now, if you look at it from the other side of the desk, let's flip the desk and let's look at it from the other partner side. So let's be real. Being in a relationship with someone who has an untreated mental illness can feel like carrying a double burden: love and empathy, but also stress, confusion, sometimes trauma. Here is the hard part. It's not automatically your responsibility to carry your partner's illness. Support is different from sacrifice. And we know that relationship love comes with sacrifices, but there is limits to the sacrifices we offer. And sometimes it's not your sacrifice to offer. If you are willing to stay and sacrifice your emotions, your life, your mental well-being, that is a choice you make. But when it comes to other people around you in this family, in this relationship, it's not your choice to make this sacrifice. Because if the relationship becomes verbally, emotionally, or physically abusive, the priority must be safety. Yours and your children's. Now, is it fair to stay? There is no universal answer to this. Some partners find healing together, and that's beautiful if you can find this, hold close to it because it's beautiful. But others reach a breaking point. The questions become, and here are the 3 questions I asked myself before I left after 13 years. Is my partner getting help and taking responsibility? After 13 years of begging and asking to go to therapy, to join marriage counselor, to do whatever it takes, he never took the responsibility. He never admitted, and always at the end it was like, yeah, I'll go with you. Book the appointment. I booked the appointment. The day of the appointment, twice this happened, and he comes and say, there is nothing wrong with me. I'm completely fine. You need the help. So the first question was no, he wasn't. Are my boundaries respected? As I said before in other podcasts, that each relationship has to be built on boundaries. No matter what kind of relationship, no matter how close are you with your partner, they are your best friend, they are everything in the world. That doesn't mean cross those boundaries. Those are yours. You build them. So, are my boundaries respected? No. They were never respected. I respected his. I made sure I respected them. I did not just respect, but took care of them and made it clear that this is his and no one allowed to cross them. But mine was never respected. Am I and my children safe? No. But I sacrificed. As I said, when the sacrifice belongs to you, that is your choice. So I sacrificed my safety. It was verbally, emotionally abusive. It made me so many times feel I'm the crazy, I'm a disappointment, and I have no worth. I cannot survive out there without him. One day I say something and next day he completely say that this never happened. One day I say something and he laughs and joke about it and everything goes great, and next day the same thing, the same exact thing. It's a big fight and a big problem. So that was my sacrifice. I was willing to stay for my kids. But we get to the point where my kids aren't safe verbally and emotionally. And I remember the day when both of my daughters, they came and said, we cannot live this way anymore. So no, is not my choice to make the sacrifice. It's not my sacrifice to offer. It is theirs, and that is not fair for them. So that answers the third question, and that was the breaking point. That is the point where I said, that's it, we are done. So again, if the answer for those questions is no, then it's not only fair, it may be necessary to leave. So there is so many other things. It doesn't just stop here, because for most of those personality disorder, some of us like and ask, what about my kids? This is something genetics? Are they going to inherit this? Mental illness does have genetic components, but genes are only part of the story. What really matters is as much, maybe even more, is the environment children grow up in. A safe, stable, loving home is the strongest protective factor. Here where it comes the epigenetics versus genetics. Epigenetics looks at how our environment, stress, trauma, or even experiences can switch genes on and off. That means the way children are raised, the level of stress, support, and safety in their environment can literally shape how those genetic risks play out. What harms kids most isn't the genetics risk, is growing up in a toxic, chaotic, or abusive household. There is an experiment done years ago, and I believe it's even mentioned in some of the psychology books. Twins who from born in, what they call them, I guess it is identical twin. They at the born, they kept one with a family who are abusive, not healthy environment, chaotic, and the other twin lived with a family who was healthy, happy, positive. Through the years, they found that the behavior of both they born from someone who has the genetic disorder. So both of them has it. One of them, with the negative environment, it triggered, and it's you can see the disorder very obvious in their behavior. And the other one, in the positive environment, they were completely normal, no issues, happy, positive attitude, growing, raising in a very well environment. So it's not just the gene that plays, but also the environment can trigger. So here's the message. Having a mental health condition does not excuse abuse, because there is ways. Compassion and boundaries can exist together. And as a partner, or a parent, you are allowed to choose safety, even if that means stepping away. There is no shame in staying and working through it if it is safe. And there is no shame in leaving if that is what it takes. Like I said earlier, there is no wrong or right here. At the end of the day, you gotta do what you gotta do. Thank you for listening today. I'll say it again. I'm not an expert. I'm sharing life experiences. If this episode stirs something for you and you're struggling, please reach out for help from a therapist, from a licensed therapist, support group, hotline. You don't have to carry it alone. If this episode spoke to you, share it with someone who might need to hear it. And remember, empathy, safety, and self-respect all belong in the same room. Thank you for listening and looking forward to hear from you. Anything, any comment, any information, any stories. That is the whole purpose of this podcast. Until then, have a wonderful weekend.